us. Right, we are just recording this meeting. Give us like 2 more minutes. A couple of them are still logging in. So let's give them 2 more minutes, and after that we will begin today's webinar. So just please be patient with us for 2 more minutes.
सारा म्यूट मतलब म्यूट છે
All right, good morning to all you dear teachers. May I request all of you to please mute yourselves. Just to ensure all of us have a very smooth experience with this webinar, may I please request all of you to mute yourselves. All right. Thank you so much, teachers. My name is Rashmi Furtado, and I'm the co-founder and senior editor of teachertribe.world. We have interacted with you for a lot of time last year, and even before that with our magazines and with our webinars. And this time we are back with another set of webinars for you, but with Center for Learning, Leadership and Excellence. So let me not take too long on what CLLE is, and I would request Dr. Nagmani to please take over and give us a short intro on what CLLE, that is Center for Learning, Leadership and Excellence, is. Dr. Nagmani, if you could please take over.
Thank you so much, Rashmi. Good morning, everyone. Dear teachers, it's indeed my pleasure to introduce CLLE to all of you. Center for Learning, Leadership and Excellence is an initiative by a passionate collective of leading educators that also includes our mentor, Bala sir, leading educator, Meenakshi ma'am, etc., to facilitate the development of innovative practices in schools that we work with. We have a simple, very personalized approach driven by collaborative learning framework.
Dr. Nagmani, just a second, ma'am. I think you have been muted by mistake. Just a minute, ma'am. Yes, Dr. Nagmani, please go ahead.
Okay, we are a simple and personalized approach driven by collaborative learning framework that integrates contemporary education research to impact and influence the future of learning. So how is that we are going to help you as a school? We have school-specific programs for teachers that are grade-based in accordance with NEP 2020. We work on topics that help you prepare your school for the future. Our larger goal is to promote strong partnerships through our learning communities, help strive towards greater efficacy and excellence. We are indeed very, very humbled by your enthusiastic response from all of you who have been part of this webinar today. We look forward to engaging with you in the future too. So I'm not here to be standing between you and Bala sir. You could reach me personally at drnagamani@clle.co, and I would be happy to send you details of how we could help your school. Have a great session. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nagamani. Well, there you go, teachers. You know more about Center for Learning, Leadership and Excellence now. To tell you a little bit about teachertribe.world, we have been in existence for we are inching closer to year 10 now. And we have been engaging with you on various platforms. And if you wish to get our magazine, you can at any point in time get onto our website. It's teachertribe.world as the logo you can see on your screen. And you will find our magazines there. And you can contribute yourself as well to our magazine and to the site. We would be more than happy if all of you join in the Teacher Tribe and the Center for Learning, Leadership and Excellence. Moving forward with our webinar here today. First of all, we have, let me just give you details on the questions. Give me 1 second. Yes. If you can please make a note of this phone number. Through the entire webinar, you can WhatsApp your questions to this phone number. And we will ensure that towards the end of the webinar, depending on how much time we have on hand, we will ask your questions to our speaker today, and we will ensure that your questions are answered. I will be flashing this number again. For now, we will move forward. Before we move forward, this is our next webinar. Like I said, we have a series of webinars that we are coming up with. This is our next webinar with Meenakshi ma'am. You would have heard her name as one of the key people in our team with CLLE. And the webinar that she would be conducting or speaking in would be on 2nd October. The time is the same, 11 a.m. and the registration process is also the same. We will show you these details again towards the end. Like Dr. Nagamani said, if you can make a note of these email IDs, you can use these email IDs to get in touch with Team CLLE. All right, introducing our speaker for today. Well, I know it sounds a little cliche to say he needs no introduction, but honestly, when it comes to the teaching fraternity, he needs no introduction. But let me give you a very short introduction. That is, he is the former Director Academics of CBSE. For many of us who are here today, he has been a mentor, a teacher himself, and he's helped us through a lot of probably situations where we have been a little demotivated with his talks. If you just listen to him speak, out of nowhere, you get this huge surge of energy and motivation to do your job, to teach better. That has been my experience with him. So I'm hoping all of you would have a similar experience with him today. We have G. Balasubramanian. He is actually known to many of us as Balaji and many others as Bala Sir. We refer to him as Bala Sir here at Teacher Tribe and CLLE. So over to you, Bala Sir. I request you to please take over and start your session.
Thank you, Rashmi. It's indeed nice of you. At the outset, I would like to thank CLLE and the Teachers Tribe for this wonderful opportunity and the two rock stars behind these organizations, Giri Balasubramaniam and Dr. Vijay Rajgopal, who have made this day possible. And also a host of educators who have been standing behind these two organizations to usher in a new concept of education in the changing times, especially in the post-COVID scenario, and also in the context of the new national education policy. So it is a collective, collaborative, social construction of knowledge that has resulted in what is happening today and what will be happening in the days to come. And therefore, behind this is a social cause. With this background, I would like to take you to the topic of the day. And the topic that has been assigned today is a very contextual topic. Are you able to see that? Are you able to see the share?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right,
We can see.
right. Let me put on slide share. Okay. So, to all the teachers present here, a very good morning. And as a matter of fact, I must offer my salutations to the teaching community because in the last year and a half, what I have witnessed is a kind of a magic. What could have happened in a matter of 10 years, the kind of transformation, not a mere change, in bringing a kind of a philosophical transformation in the field of education, given the scenario of COVID. I think the kind of work they have done is absolutely marvelous. And I would like to start the program by offering my salutations to the teaching community. Friends, having said about COVID, the only thing that you must start with is saying, hope all of you are doing well along with your family, your neighbors. And because this COVID has taught us that nothing is superior than health. Health is wealth, it is said. And therefore, I think whether you are financially rich or academically sound, whether you are infrastructurally, a treasure house, it doesn't matter that today everybody is looking for a safe health, mental, emotional, psychological, and professional health. Therefore, I start the program with a wish to all of you. And what this COVID has done is a very, interesting and challenging scenario it ushered in. What started as a very small viral infection in some part of the world has manifested into a kind of a crisis, or what one could call a chaos. There was a debate quite some time back when the second wave of the COVID was almost in its peak, whether it was a crisis or a chaos. I personally felt it was not a crisis, it was a chaos, for the simple reason that crisis has a nucleus, whereas chaos doesn't have a nucleus. Probably it has got multi-nuclei, and therefore it is very difficult to track the movement of a chaotic system. And therefore, what started as a health issue became a financial issue, a social issue, it became a professional issue, it became a commercial issue, it became a dollar issue, and it became a national wealth issue across the world over today. Therefore, it is not a crisis, it was a chaos almost everywhere. And therefore, managing a crisis is easy because it is like a problem solving, a large problem solving. But when it comes to chaos, it is not a mere problem solving. Right. But the world today, when you look at that, the universe of the world, the story of the world goes with the chaos only, because the very world was formed with a big bang, which was a chaos. Out of the chaos was born the sun and the planets and others. Therefore, the message that chaos also leads to a kind of a creativity. Chaos also leads to a kind of restructuring and re-engineering of a given system is something which gives us a ray of hope that all is not bad, but all is well that ends well. And therefore, born out of the disappointments we have is also a hope. Now, similarly, just like the Big Bang we had, the Great Deluge was also the what you call the Pralaya was also an indicator of a system of chaos. And therefore, all these chaos leads in scientific terms, if you want to say, that it leads to a kind of thermodynamic spontaneity, a spontaneity which leads from what you call to a higher level of entropy. In other words, entropy is said to be a measure of the disorder of the system. And therefore, the entire system, not single system, but almost every system in the world, moved from an order to disorder. So management of the systems became very, very difficult. Even systemic experts found it very difficult to cope with a multifaceted attack on their existing systems, which are stable for decades and decades. No wonder the education system was also a part of this kind of a challenge. And I could know how the school principals, educational administrators were finding to cope with the kind of the chaos that impacted the education system. Right? There is a theory in chaos called the theory of chaos. Mathematicians will know that long before, a couple of decades before, it said that when a metaphor that when a butterfly flaps its wings in China, it has a hurricane in Texas. That was a concept which was given in the theory of chaos few decades back, which is absolutely true today that you find. So all of us have been knowing that where the disturbance will come from. I normally used to say, if you touch at a point A, it will give a shock at a point Z, and that was true of the post-COVID situation also. So, but the Paul Cézanne, the artist, talks about the beauty of the world is that we live in a rainbow of chaos over there. Unless you have a cloud, you won't be able to see in a rainbow. So we have been in a kind of a very chaotic, cloudy situation, and now it's time for us to look for the rainbow. And that's the reason that we are here today, to see how do we rebuild our system and get into see the light of tomorrow, the beauty of the rainbow that we have. Chaos leads to creativity, it is said, and therefore it is time for you and me and almost every educator in the school situation. How do we rebuild not from the remnants that we have, but for the what you call disorderly system? How do we put the system back into order? How do we restore the confidence profile of the learners, the confidence profile of the parents, and our own selves into rehabilitating education, because education is the seed for tomorrow and the future. So friends, when you talk about leadership in education, leadership is about bringing the equilibrium and maximizing productivity. So we are now in a situation where things are at their low ebb, and therefore low energy levels are being indicated at various places. So the leaders will have to work a little bit extra time, would have to put a little bit extra energy to bring equilibrium. Right? I think the first thing is to bring an equilibrium between what we wanted to happen, what has happened, and then try to see that things are not out of control, and then take steps 1, 2, 3, and 4, one after the other, rebuild for maximizing our productivity. Productivity, which was rather at the negative side, possibly has to come to the neutral part of the graph, and then start moving up. And we are today possibly at a situation where we have almost touched the neutral aspect of the graph, and we will have to take steps today how to see how we grow. So when you talk about how the COVID situation impacted the school system, it 10 different ways it brought the school administration to a halt, not operational halt, but also a psychological and a thought dynamic halt that it brought in. One of the problem was that we could not know, what is going to happen tomorrow. Uncertainty was really hanging around, So uncertainty about the future was everybody. Anything you do, you are not certain. You were not sure what will be the timetable. You were not sure whether the examinations would be conducted. You are not sure whether the same amount of staff would be required for the school. And 1, 2, 3, I can go on listing around. So uncertainty haunted us at almost every point of time. The second aspect was a very interesting term I love to use is that we had what is called an opinion tsunami. What does it mean? That when you are low, when you find that you are depressed, disconnected, everybody knocks at your door will say, I will sympathize with you and say, well, this is how you have to do things. And therefore, I could see the last 1 year, everybody in the field said, this is how a school has to be run. These are the ways curriculum has to be transacted. The technology is here. The personal contacts are there. How do we organize? So I found the teachers and the principals more confused with the kind of hundreds and thousands of opinions that are flowing both directly as well as through technology on how the school management system should work. And that created a kind of an opinion tsunami. And I found the educators at their crossroads. The third important thing was the bureaucratic directions that you received. With the kind of health concerns that you had, I could see almost every day some kind of instructions flowing, either from the state government or from the local authority or from the boards of education, right? From the health department, from the education department, and almost every department of administration. And then the principals were very highly confused. Whom should I listen to? How should I follow? Therefore, there was an absolute challenge in by the bureaucratic directions on your management issues became very confusing and confounding. The fourth was that given the scenario, you are all asked to do an online classroom, and no doubt many schools with or without technology, some of them with poor quality of technology, also transformed themselves into schools which provided the online classrooms, whether or not the children had the support system. So online classrooms started in a very, insignificant manner, but over a period of time that gained grounds. But the teachers made a simple mistake. What they did was they tried to project a classical classroom online. The online classroom or online education has a different philosophy, has a different dynamics. But unfortunately, that dynamics of an online classroom was not understood, nor were the resources available for the people. And therefore, the operability and outcomes of the online classrooms, though were quite average, but they were not really something which could we could feel proud of or we could celebrate. That was one of the challenges the education world had. The fifth point was a parental, challenge. Support systems for parents were very, very weak. There are many schools across the country where parents either were reluctant to pay the fees because they did not get the money. They lost their business. They lost their jobs. And therefore, some of them did not feel like paying the money. Some of them had the money, but they were hesitant to pay the money. So there were so many issues which I don't want to deliberate, but there was certain reality. The schools were not getting adequate money in many cases to manage the running salary structures of their teachers. Therefore, the financial health of the school systems were impacted. Then came the students online. Now the online classes were going through, but the students, whether they were connected with the teachers or not connected with teachers, was not known. The children, there was a very interesting, the WhatsApp message which came to me. A young child asking the mother, Mom, during the online class, I muted my teacher, but when I go to my regular class, how do I mute the teacher? And that was a kind of the spirit in which the children were working. Not that they were not interested to listen to the teachers, but the fact was that, out of sight, out of mind. That's a proverbial statement that had certain say on the online classroom, which impacted the quality of pedagogy, the quality of learning, and therefore the quality of the learning curve of the students. Then all that led to a kind of low self-esteem and demoralization amongst the teaching fraternity, because they were neither getting a clap from the parents' side nor from the children's side, and nor they could get adequate moral support from the hierarchy of the management. So the teachers felt a kind of a low self-esteem. That was one of the challenges they found. And then the school safety, was it's a shared responsibility. And then you were not able to bring the children to the school. The school had to be sanitized off and on. The cost of, financial health was something which was a burden to the schools to be carried. Neither you could close the school, nor could you run the school, but you had to look for alternate strategies and segments of operation to see that the schools are enforced with safe environment. But I had to add to that, the health officials started visiting the school. The corporation officials started visiting the school with so many recommendations. And I know pretty well personally that a number of principals are finding it difficult to cope with this requirement. Then all that resulted in a poor academic quality, right? So, all the beautiful concepts of and philosophies of academics, what you talked about, were almost liquidated. Though you talked about behaviorism, constructivism, cognitivism, and connectivism. Now, when it comes to an online class, none of the philosophies were really in force, nor your learning design or your lesson plans could be put in place to make some meaning, because all that was happening was just manage the situation, just see that something happens around. In that context, the quality of academics was the major victim, and no wonder many schools they simply let their children promote to the next class, whether they deserved or not. Last but not the least, you find that dealing with dealing with the emotional content, social emotional connect with the children was indeed a problem. Children, parents, everybody had an emotional problem, and therefore you found that there was a lot of restlessness. There was a lot of impatience among all the stakeholders of the community, a kind of a ball game of finding fault with every aspect of a stakeholder almost went on in a number of schools over there. And therefore, that was a challenge. These were some of the visible, invisible, tangible, and intangible, the impacts of the system. Okay, so the question before you is that, do you have answers for all these questions? Do you have all these other problems? Do you have solutions for all these problems over there? I bet one thing, neither you, nor me, nor any educator or educational administrator, including the states which are operating education, have got an answer. So leadership is not knowing the answer, is a capacity to release a collective intelligence and insight of groups and organizations. And so no wonder today you and I are here for this simple reason, that how do we contribute to the collective intelligence of managing the situation, so that the best could be brought into all schools over there. I think I would like to commend the contribution of CLLT as well as the Teachers Tribe for taking this initiative of bringing the people on to a platform for collective thinking and problem solving. So, what is the first thing, a few things that the educators should do, school should do? I just wanted to give you 5 suggestions, a couple of suggestions before I say what kind of strategies we could adopt. First thing I must suggest to the heads of institutions and the teachers, keep your calm and composure. Don't press a panic button, because with the COVID policy coming through and also the national education policy knocking at the doors, there has been a lot of inflows into the school system, both in content, in pedagogy, in assessment, in infrastructure. that therefore the principals and the school heads and administrators were not able to cope with that. They were exhibiting a sense of restlessness. So remember one thing, who is going to be your guide? Who is going to be your supporter? I think self-leadership is the key to leadership. Therefore, remember, you are going to be your own leader. And how do you lead yourself? Your wisdom should lead you. Your conscience should lead you. So keep your calm, keep your composure, keep your eyes open to ears open to everybody, but you have to take your decision. Your decision is the local decision, right? And then when you have, get rid of the goal sickness that you have. Now, there are many principals whom I say, sir, we have to finish this, we have to do this, we have to do that. They are now projecting a number of things which would happen in a normal school system, in the post-COVID school environment, which is not possible. So remember one thing, while we certainly should move towards the goal, remember that we should not become sick of the goal. We should not become impatient. We should not be driven by with an extra energy to achieve something overnight. Please note, there is no magic wand to solve all these problems, neither you nor I have. We have to run the race. We have to gain slowly. As Martin Luther King, who said, if you cannot fly, run. If you cannot run, walk. If you cannot walk, crawl. If all that is important is that you keep moving. So remember, you keep moving. It doesn't matter at what speed you are moving. Go with stress-free, relaxed manner. Third thing that the school heads should remember, take a holistic view of the situation. Remember, every problem in a post-COVID situation is linked to one more problem. Therefore, don't look into a problem in isolation. You need to take a holistic view. You need to take a Hawk's view of the entire universe in which you are operating over there. So impulsive decisions in one sector may have an impact on the other sector. Therefore, have a group of people who are wise, who can help you in taking decisions and then operate the decisions. Don't try to force decisions upon people overnight, while though you are, driven to that situation. Keep your composure, as I said. Remember, take a holistic view. Don't take a piecemeal decision. Don't think that assessment has to be changed immediately without doing enough work in the pedagogy. You cannot bring a pedagogy without taking cognizance of changes in the content and the curricula. Therefore, please remember, all of these problems are linked to one another, and therefore take every step as a cautious step that you need. For everything that happens around, learn to respond, but not react. Sometimes because we are impatient, because we want to see things to be kept in place immediately, we try to react to the situation and not respond to the situation. Keep your emotions well under control. Emotional intelligence of school heads are very, very important at this particular point of time. Don't let your emotions run the race. It's your wisdom that should run the race. Like, have a very compassionate view with all the stakeholders, be it a teacher, be it a parent, be it a student. Every single stakeholder associated with the school needs a considerate view, a compassionate view. Therefore, the leadership of today is not strategic leadership, but it's a compassionate leadership. It is a thought leadership. That is what is required with the post-COVID situation, right? Then all things, remember, don't happen overnight. As I already said, there is no magic wand. You think that you have taken a decision, it will happen tomorrow. It is not going to happen tomorrow. Please run along with the people, take slowly and steadily, work on the decision that you have. Then be courageous and forward looking, but not aggressive, right? There are people whom I have seen, sir, it will take another 1 year for everything so you can lie low till that time. That's not the attitude that you need to have. You need to be a part of the game that's happening. So be courageous and forward looking, right? But at the same time, don't be aggressive to push things through, right? Now, be clear about your communications with the people, right? Though that's not a really post-COVID requirement. Any leader at any point of time needs to be communicative. But in the post-COVID leadership, communication has acquired a very significant place, and therefore your communications, your both the oral as well as in writing, along to the parents, to the government, to the board, has got to be absolutely listed in terms of priorities, and then well documented, right? And then you be an optimist. Remember that COVID will go off tomorrow, but the scar of COVID will remain for a year or two, right? Therefore, you are not going to have something happening tomorrow. So we need optimism, right? We need optimism. There is a beautiful poem in which, I think it was Matthew Arnold who said that whether you want to be a batsman who want to aim at 10 and go to the field and get it, or whether you want to look at 100, but you play up to 99 and get out over there. I think pursuit of excellence is very important. Hope is what sustains all of us. Therefore, don't lose hope and don't ever think that the schools are going to be closed. So friends, the challenges to, alongside with all the infrastructural challenges that you had, alongside the kind of, health challenges you had and the financial challenges you had, there are certain basic academic challenges which you need to meet. One is going to be the curriculum challenge. What is that? Curriculum has been cut to size. Right now, what we have done is we are cutting the feet to the suit, cutting the feet to suit the shoes. That's exactly what has happened over a period of time. There has not been adequate wisdom in downsizing the curriculum. Whatever was possible, we did it without finding what are the linkages in such processes. Well, anyhow, there is no point in doing post-mortem at this point of time. But very importantly, you remember one thing, that the curriculum that we have, the curricular infrastructure has become very weak. And then probably you will have to rebuild the curricular infrastructure once a school reopens. You have what you call a pedagogical management has become an issue. All philosophies have been kept across alongside the shelf of the principal, be it behaviorism or cognitivism or constructivism or connectivism. It has been a simple system management that today's e-lessons have gone, right? This way, that way, whether it's a WhatsApp, whether it's another method. We have just been managing the situation rather than solving the problems at this point of time. We wanted to keep the, we wanted to take care that we are not subjected to any negative comment rather than doing a kind of a positive work. So pedagogy has been in distress for the last 1.5 years, whatever be the kind of technology we had been adopting. The assessment situation have gone out of hands. No wonder that boards, with the intervention of the courts of judicature, have said that all children will be passed. Whether it's a right or a wrong decision, we cannot sit in judgment. But the fact is that the loss of sight of assessment has really made the structure weak, and therefore, it is something like sending a sick person from a general ward to an ICU. We have only demotivated the current situation. So, taking care of the health of academics, be it curriculum, be it pedagogy, be it assessment, is going to be a very demanding requirement for the heads of institutions. I think every head of institution, every coordinator, every principal should take care of that. Adding fuel to the fire, you have got the NEP 2020 knocking at your door with your bouquet of recommendations over there, be it experiential leadership, mathematical thinking, scientific temper, research-based learning, right? And 3D assessment called the self-assessment, the peer assessment, and the teacher-led assessment. You are now only familiarizing yourself with all these terms without knowing the status quo of all these things. Whether your textual material support this idea, whether your curriculum supports this idea, whether your pedagogical practices are good enough for managing this, you really don't know, leave alone the assessment part of it to come. But all these things are really creating a kind of psychological instability in the minds of my teachers. So the crux of the problem is that training the teachers is going to be the call of the day. Not one program, not two programs, but even 100 programs will not suffice to put the teachers on the driving seat in the future. So organizations all over the country are now engaging themselves in various modus operandi for training the teachers. Probably that's right time that CLLT also has come in collaboration with the teacher tribe to initiate a few processes of teacher training. And I must really salute the educators over here to see that, they have stepped into this field. The kind of expertise they have should be usefully, gainfully, and profitably used for benefit of the teachers, initially in the Karnataka region and slowly and steadily across the country over there. So now a teacher going back to the school, many places when the teachers are going back to the school, right? You look like an old student and alumni visiting your school, and you say, oh, this was my classroom. Oh, this is where I sat. This was a chair I sat down. That's a kind of a disconnect that has come into the school situation. Therefore, you must now start going back to the school and convert this nostalgia back into your energy system, put it back into your energy system to see that the schools are back in position. So what are the kind of post-COVID skills my principals would need, right? I will take a couple of minutes to say that and stop over there. One, all heads of institutions, all academic coordinators would need skills of chaos management, right? Now, how do you do the chaos management? Anyone who wants to keep the power centrally in the hand will be doing a great mistake. A good leader should be able to create verticals of management in the school situation, delegate responsibilities to the people, trust them, leave it to them, and see that they do. Maybe that something goes wrong, never mind. People learn only through the mistakes over that. So chaos management can be done not by a single person, not by authority, but by collaboration, by participation, right? So please address yourself. Every single management present here needs to address to chaos management by decentralization of the power. The second impact that is going to be is about uncertainty management, right? Uncertainty is going to be haunting you for the next 2 years, one way or the other. Probably you might get solution immediately for certain things you may not get that. The hangover over the past problems will also create certain amount of uncertainties in the days to come. Therefore, don't try to over control things. While control is very important for organization leading and seeing that things are in a systemic manner and there is a process control available, but please do not overstress yourself, over project yourself, overstretch yourself to manage uncertainty, but accept uncertainty as a part of the get going of a good administrative process. Third is the crisis management. Back to the school, the children are coming through. You are likely to have a number of crises. Crisis is not over with the COVID going off with the second, but to next 1 year, you will have one kind of crisis or the other because the system has been totally destabilized. The energy systems have come very low. Therefore, you need a core team in the school. Quality management teams have to be developed in each school and put across. And then, allow them the power to learn from the mistake and learn from the power of now. You cannot project that this crisis will come. Yeah, as an official in CBSE, every morning I used to remember that what crisis will come today, I do not know. But the management, the skills relevant to the management of crisis is very important. Remember that crisis management skills, not only the principal should have, but should have their academic coordinators and down the line, delegate the responsibility, train them, trust them, allow them to take decision and see that your vision and mission are protected in spite of the crisis that you have. Infrastructure management is going to be a problem for you because a lot of school infrastructure is going to remain unused, underutilized, rather probably put into wrong usages. There have been reports in the last couple of months to me about abuse of the the infrastructure of the school, the vacant space in the school by unwarranted elements. So every principal needs to keep their eyes and ears open and see that though the school remains locked partly, you will find that they have to be taken adequate care of by not being used by unwarranted elements at the point of time. HR management is going to be a problem because you will find a lot of mobility amongst the teaching community in the days to come, because many schools did not give full scale of pay, half salary, low salaries, not being paid for months. All these things have created a kind of distress and unhappiness among the people. And I do see in the last couple of months a lot of frustration among the community that I want to move from school 1 to school 2 and school this city to the other city. So you will find even stable schools finding challenges in having the right type of people, sustaining the right type of people. School institutions should be ready for that. The next is going to be relationship management over here. Because of the psychological factors that we have worked through, there is likely to be greater stress in the relationship between the principal and the teachers and the parents, and then the teachers and the students, and management and the entire other types of stakeholders. So they are bound to come. If they don't come, thank God and thank the stars. If they are there, take it as a part of the team. And therefore, how the heads of institutions should know how they keep their doors open to ideas, how they accommodate the ideas of other people, willingness to accept, be a part of, the changing universe. Now, importantly, every leader in the school system should have a great listening skill. Half the problems are solved only when you are prepared to listen, not to the words of the people, but to the emotions underlying the kind of words over there. That is a skill that you would require in the future. Communication management is very, very important, because your authenticity of your communication will be very much questioned in the days to come, right? Especially by the local authorities and state, because every single document you send to them will be questioned, will be verified, and with a lot of fake issues coming through. At this, I am aware of some fake issues which are surfacing in school systems over now. The communication management will be going to be challenged. Therefore, keep your communications, your records straight, accessible, and double check all your records over there, so that transparency of your information communication is available to people. Then then you have the fiscal management. Many heads of schools are going to find the fiscal management going to be a challenge. Therefore, there a lot of understanding is required between the principal and the management. While expenditures of some kind cannot be, negated, they have got to be put in place. It's also important how prudent you are in fiscal management, cost effectiveness, unnecessary expenditures in conduct of certain functions, exhibition of the brand of the school by investment of cost have all to be cut into size for the next 1 or 2 years over there. So probably you might need consultants to have the fiscal management put into place in the school, and then the curriculum management and pedagogy management is an issue. Right now, you have to open your school back. Now you will repositioning the school from technology back to the classical classroom. So you are now taking a retrograde step, right? You moved from formal learning system to an informal learning system reasonably, and now we'll be back from informal to formal learning system, and you will find this conflict management is going to be a big issue. So please remember that the school principals, school management committees, and school administrators need to work on designing the curriculum in a manageable way and putting the pedagogy in perspective. Right? So don't overdo technology. Don't underrate technology. Blended learning is the call of the day. Therefore, you need not, you don't need ideas which are, age old. You need to think out of box. You need to think afresh. Probably the way you run a school in terms of curriculum and management will see greener pastures in the days to come. You have to be willing to transform yourself, not merely change. So that takes you to the last thing is the ethics management of a school system. So with all these problems coming through, already in the last 2-3 months, I have come across certain issues about ethical issues in schools over there. On various concerns, it may not be a platform to record about them. But many ethical issues are coming about the way the managements are dealing with the school, and therefore that has to be put in place. A systemic audit is very much required. So, friends, I will quickly run through a couple of slides and stop there. One, what is that you should be doing? Prepare yourself. What brought you here will not take you there. Therefore, be ready for change. Two, accelerate your learning, right? The more, the last 1.5 years has really de-accelerated your growth. Now you have to compensate and probably press your accelerator of the car a little faster to be, learning better. Third, right? Third, match your strategy to the situation. Don't, you had a particular strategy run for all these years. Don't ever think that the same strategy will work. Therefore, you must be willing to re-strategize you personally as well as collectively, institutionally, as well as organizationally, right? So that takes you to the fourth thing, that early bird catches the worm. That you have to demonstrate early secure wins. Because the winning situation is a great tonic. The moment you win something, you said you are capable of thing. When we are very low at this point of time, your few winnings might give that, may give you a booster. Therefore, try to do small things, but successful things. Don't look at big things and see it's impossible. Take small steps and feel gratified, feel satisfied, feel successful in each stage that you need to. Now, fifth, negotiate with success. Success is not something which you can buy. It is going to be difficult to buy success. It is going to be difficult to buy excellence. You will have to negotiate. How do you negotiate? You have to negotiate with your smartness, your intellect, your teamwork, your your ability to reposition your ego. I think that is what going to really take you to this one. So achieve alignment. That's a very important thing. A lot of things in the school system would not have been aligned to your regular way of working in the last 1.5 years. So you have to align whatever has been depositioned. You have to align it to normalcy. That will take some time. Take one after the other and start looking at alignment. Head of institution cannot do that, but he has got to put the team to work on alignment, right? And that build your team. I think that's a very, very important thing, right? Building the team defines the success of the leader. And I don't think I have to talk about this to your audience, but I believe that the future holds promise only for successful teams and rather than successful individuals. Enlarge the circle of your influence. The last 1.5 years, you have gone back to your shell. Your influence, the universe of your influence has also come down. So open your wings, open your network, and then try to reconnect with the world which you have lost. Keep your balance. I think that's the powerful message, that don't expect too much. Don't let things go out of hands. Try to keep a balance between the past, the present, and the future. I think COVID will come. COVID will now go off. But remember in that time, as a leader, accelerate everyone in the team. It is not only that you accelerate yourself, but as a leader, convert energy into synergy. I think that is a success of a good school, good leadership, that one who doesn't work individually, but takes the energy of everybody to that. Therefore, relearn your learning. Unlearning and relearning has become a very important thing in the post-COVID school situation. Therefore, every person in the school system, the leader, the teachers, everybody has to unlearn and relearn. So, reworking your networks. I've already said about that. Many networks have been loosened and they have lost their connectivity. Please get back to set them over there. Remember that watch out for people who want to hold you back. That's a very important thing. What have happened? Many people have come, Arey, how will you run the school in future? There are a number of people who have become demotivated because they are demotivated. They are making others demotivated. This has become a little viral in the modern situation with the WhatsApp and other things coming through. But keep the negative people far away from you. So remain close to the people who do that. Last slide of mine, what I have is called documentation, as I said. It's a very, very important thing. We in the school system, largely in India, more so in the school system, we are not at all known for documenting. 100% of things, 99% of things rather, go by oral instructions. The day of the future is not for what you call oral instruction. Every simple thing that you do in a post-COVID situation has got to be documented. So you must have a good team which will be ready to look for every small change, every small action and reaction in the school that's happening around, that's being recorded. A school will not only live by spirit in the future, but will also live by the records that it has, which speaks the history of the school. So friends, remember, we are here to create history and not to repeat it. And in the post-COVID situation, we look forward to a situation that every school that you lead, you are associated with, will make a new history. Thank you for a patient listening.
Thank you, sir. I can see many teachers applauding for you. So let me convey that to you. I think all of them are very excited and happy with the message that you have given here today. We have already received a couple of questions. Rest of you teachers who want to send us your questions, the number has been put on the chat box. You can use that chat box to send us your questions. Also, a couple of you asked us about certificates. All those of you who have registered will get your certificates automatically. I am aware that there are a couple of you who have joined us in the last minute without registering. That's absolutely fine. More the merrier. We are always happy with more teachers joining us. You can mail us on this mail ID here on your screen, and your certificates will be sent to you. So if you can please make a note of this mail ID, you can get in touch with Dr. Nagmani and she will ensure that the certificates are sent to you. All right, let me move forward. So I have received plenty questions. I'm not sure we will be able to cover all of them, but I will do my best. Teachers, I'll do my best to ensure that all of your questions are covered. First of all, sir, this is a question from a teacher in PSBB KK Nagar. Are the pre-primary children ready for school in India? If so, what is the system that has to be put in place if they are ready to come into schools?
Well, I think it would be impertinent on my part to give an answer at a national level, because the kind of health issues that vary from state to state, call for a conscious understanding of the local health situations. Even within a given state, the health conditions vary from place to place. Therefore, I think the green signal has to be given by the local government, number one. Once the government gives the signal, the work the teachers and schools need to do, as I have been repeatedly talking about, is about psychological rehabilitation of the children in the school so that their comfort levels are good. They want to come back to the school again because a large number of them have stayed at home, and therefore, introducing them to the school is going to be indeed a challenge. And I think that's where, the school team, especially when dealing with the primary school, have to make the school more happy school. Don't go back to the curriculum and say, oh, they have come now, I'll start teaching. Please don't do that. right? For at least a week or 10 days, start dealing with them in such a way they enjoy coming to the school. But, it's going to be a process. I think it may take from 3 months to 1 year to get the children back to school, depending on the geography.
Okay, so that leads me on to the next question here. It links to the response that you've given. Once schools reopen, what should be our priority, providing children help with their socio-economical side or taking them back to academics and learning?
I would say academic learning has got to be secondary, right? Because learning happens. What you define as academic learning is your requirement. But children continue to learn one thing or the other, either formally or informally. So the more you open the children to socio-economic environment, and that the more comfort level they feel in their socio-economic environment, their learning will automatically find a place. So this aspect has to be addressed not only by the school, but in collaboration with the philanthropists and the NGOs in the system, so that you are able to create a quick recovery for the socio-economic deficiencies.
Okay. The next two questions are sort of linked, so I'm going to ask you together. One is from Giribala Subramaniam, your namesake. What behavior can we expect from children when they come back to school? And the other question is, children are coming back to school after a 2-year gap. If a child has left school or has been going through online learning in class 6, he will be coming back to class 8. The emotional maturity of a child would still be in class 6, but the child is in class 8. What do we expect, and how can teachers manage the situation?
That's a very important and interesting question. This is exactly what I have been talking in many platforms, and the previous question is also linked over that. The psychological, inequity between when the child left the school and the child is coming back to the school is something which is going to be a matter of concern, right? And also, the child back at home has also met with a lot of issues like isolation, separation, and several other evils which have been associated with the COVID. Therefore, I would very much suggest that the role of psychologists in the school, counselors in the school, especially at the primary level, becomes very significant at this point of time. They need to interact with the teachers of the school. To me, every single teacher of the primary will become a counselor by himself or herself. And also, they must learn that they should tend to keep their expectations low. They should try to keep their, their ego low, not get offended by the so-called impertinent behaviors over there, which is not really impertinent, but they are emotional outbursts over there. So what you find is, one, emotional aggression could be there, some emotional restlessness could be there, emotional blandness could be there because of all these things, because they are all born out of fear and insecurity and separation. I think they need to be handled, they need to be addressed, and school counselors will have to play a very significant role.
There you go, teachers. All of you will have to put on the face or have to take a role of a counselor henceforth, at least until the students get back to the normalcy that we are trying to achieve in our country right now. Moving on, sir. Teachers have faced a lot of discrepancies during the pandemic. Emotional, financial, and moral issues were faced. Please guide us on how to come out of this depression. This question is from a teacher from MES Kishora Kendra.
Well, teachers are mature, right? And, when you talk of emotional intelligence, it's not only for children, it also applies to everybody across the age, including me at the 70s and the 80s, it doesn't matter. All of us have got some emotional inadequacy. But let's remember one thing, that this emotional inadequacy is not something for which we have gone in search for, right? This has been a product of the environment of various types and influences. And remember one thing, this is not exclusive to any single individual. Every individual in the society has been impacted one way or the other. So be happy that we are all sailing in the same boat, and try to speak to people, try to exchange your emotions with people, and feel that you have somebody on whose shoulder you can rest upon, because everybody needs a shoulder at this point of time. So teachers need not worry. Teachers should be able to will offer their shoulders to others to lead to come out of the situation.
Teachers, I think what we all need to remember is all these students who are coming back to school may have had very bad experiences with COVID happening in their family. Maybe they've lost family. We don't know what has happened. So I think the only thing that is very important, which Bala sir himself also covered, he said, be compassionate. Empathy is something that all of us need to have a very high quotient of it, at least for the next year, to ensure that all of us are very good to each other and we support each other emotionally. Moving on, sir. We have observed that there is a degradation of honesty among students in the virtual learning process. As teachers, how can we cultivate the value of honesty in children, even during the virtual classes?
Why do you single out children? I've been doing hundreds of training programs, and sometimes when I do the programs, when I find teachers who have put on their videos, I have seen teachers who are sleeping in the cot and then they're listening to me, people who have been washing the, kitchenware and then listening to me. There have been a number of things over there. Let's not be too aggressive to use the word honesty. It has been a matter of convenience over there. Our priorities have been differing at this point of time. Well, the point is, when you are very specific about children, I would say it is not dishonesty. It is our inability to gravitate the children to the different situations over there. I think that is the call of the day. For example, when a child goes to an art movie, well, he feels sleepy in a minute or two, right? So a good teacher producing an art movie may not interest a child, but a good teacher, the moment you enter and say, hi, how are you? What were you doing? What games did you play yesterday? I think within 2 minutes, you will gravitate the children. It all depends on the way you build your relationship with people, right?
Okay, thank you, sir. Moving on. This is a question about online learning and how they will be coming back to schools now. How do we handle or envisage a hybrid system of online and offline learning?
Well, I think you will have to look at the overall health of the system. Just like, you are at home, there was a time when we had no hotels, no restaurants. We all had cooked food and had food at home. When we got the hotels and other things, we decided at least once in a month we will go. Then we decided once in a week we will go. But now almost with the Zomato and other things coming through, we are very comfortable ordering every time over there. Now, what has happened is that, knowing fully well that, not all good health will come with all that being packaged and sent across, nevertheless, we are willing to take it up. Okay. So this is a kind of a psychological change, social change that's happening around the outcome of a consumerist society. So consumerism is impacting us in different ways, even in school situation. The priorities in learning change. For example, a child of class 3-4 would like to prepare for an IIT exam rather than the school exam. That is an outcome of a consumerism that's happening around over there. And consumerism has got different dimensions, including the emotional consumerism. So what you need to do is that you have to use hybrid learning, blended learning in a very balanced manner. You cannot say that I have come back to the school and therefore there will be no technology henceforth. You cannot have a future system without technology, number one. Therefore, I believe a flipped classroom, an online classroom, a blended classroom, a classical classroom, an extended classroom will all be the mix of the tomorrow. So what will happen in the school is to provide a buffet lunch of curriculum and the pedagogy.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Teachers, we have received many more questions from you, but the way Bala sir has responded to the other questions, I found that many questions were already answered. So I'm not going to be continuing with more questions, but if you feel there is some query of yours which has not been addressed, or you go back to your classes and you remember something that you want to ask us, please mail us on the mail ID that is provided to you earlier. Dr. Nagmani will ensure that you get your responses as well. Thank you so much, sir. It's been wonderful to have you here. One of the teachers actually posted on the chat box saying every session with you is like an amazing experience for their soul, an enriching experience for their soul. So I'm assuming that all of us present here today resonate with the words or resonate with what that particular teacher has experienced here. So a couple of things that I think all of us will take away from this session is, first of all, we should ensure that we maintain a balance between what has happened, what is going to happen, and a balance within ourselves as far as our minds are concerned and our life is concerned. Second thing is to be compassionate and have empathy. More than ever, I think we require to be compassionate with each other for the next 1 year at least. And the good thing with such practices is that once you develop these traits, they will stay with you all your life. So I think humanity will be better with that. Reconnecting with what we may have lost as a touch, that is very important, as Bala sir said. Relearning is another important key aspect that we need to have. And the last thing that really will stay with me is create history. Don't always depend on, repeating the history. Create your own history. So with this, dear teachers, thank you so much for joining us here today. Let me share the mail ID with you where you can send a request for your certificates. This is the mail ID where you can send a mail for your certificates or any unanswered questions or queries that you have. Please mail us on this particular mail ID. Also, for those of you who were not there probably towards the beginning of the webinar, Meenakshi ma'am, Meenakshi Balkrishna, she will be taking up our next webinar, Designing Thinking Classrooms, and that is dated for 2nd October, 11 a.m. The registration process is the same, and we will ensure we have a very smooth webinar the next time as well, and in future. We have many interesting topics coming up for you, very relevant and interesting topics. We are not going to be discussing the same things that we discussed in the past. We'll ensure that we discuss something that you can use in your classrooms or your profession as a teacher. So please write to us and please register to our webinars and other engagements. And we are very thankful for all of you joining us here today. Thank you, Bala sir, for making time for this webinar. Thank you so much, teachers. We will see you soon for our next webinar. Thank you so much for joining. Take care.
Thank you, Rashmi. Enjoyed being with all of you. Bye-bye.